Well, I'm somewhat intimidated, I must say. I'm accustomed to facing the stony stares of groups of undergraduates who are reluctant to learn, and to see the room filled with people who are eager to is a different experience. So it may take some adjusting on my part as well. It's a larger group than I anticipated, but even so, I think it might be very useful quickly, because we don't want to take up too much of the time with social things, which we can do this evening at the reception. But if we could quickly go around, just so we know your name, your institution, and a brief comment about what you're expecting at this session, then we could get started. So I'm Stephen Brown. I'm from Kent State, and I'm here because of all the big bucks that are going to pay me to do this. I wonder if we might start over here.
I'm Joel Barbosa, and I'm from the University of Illinois Chicago. Here to learn.
Before we go on, for the sake of posterity or whatever, there's a boom mic here, but you're going to have to speak up a little bit so it captures, okay? Doctor, you want to start again?
Sure. Okay, I'm Joel Barbosa, and I'm from the University of Illinois Chicago, and I came here to learn more about you.
All right.
My name is Hung Yoo Kim from Hamburg University of Foreign Studies, Seoul, Korea. I'm happy to be able to present my papers.
I'm John Carr from the University of Technology in Sydney, Australia. I've joined the queue. I'm pleased to be here.
I think John gets the record for the longest distance.
Hi, I'm Mintek Lee, and this is Jonathan grad student, and I'm preparing your packet and everything. I distribute it shortly.
I'm Blake Sanders. I'm from the University of Central Oklahoma in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here pursuing information about Q and see how it develops.
I'm Gabriel Rook from the University of Central Oklahoma, and interested in learning some general knowledge about Q, confirm some suspicions, maybe disconfirm some others, and especially interested in some specific applications throughout the course of the semester.
I'm J.B. Aiken, and I'm from the University of Central Oklahoma, and really kind of wanted to see this Steve Brown I've been reading about.
Speak up, folks. We've got to speak a little louder.
Blaine Brown from Central Oklahoma. I'm here to see more about the Q applications as well as learn about Stevenson, who I've read some highly about.
Mark Hamlin, I'm with these guys.
I'm Mike Knight, University of Central Oklahoma, and I'm the chaperone.
I'm Russ Hurd, I'm from Kent State, and I'm here because I couldn't schedule Steve Brown's seminar. And so I'm getting it in one day instead of a semester.
My name is Rangwar Paulsen. I'm from Norway, Norwegian University of Science and Technology. And I'm here and I hope to discover more on my Q methodological journey, which I've started 2 years ago.
I'm Eleanor Allgood. I'm a Canadian, but I'm also coming today from the university in Norway with Ragnvald. We are working together and trying to explore Q methodology ourselves and use it in our research. So we're here to learn more.
I'm Stan Ketter with the University of Missouri, Columbia. Basically here to learn more about Q.
Yeah, I'm Alex Cash, and I'm a Russian student at St. Lucia University working on a Master's in Management. So I'm here to learn some more about Q studies and Q methodology.
I'm Pam Hodges, Oklahoma State University, and I indeed am eager to learn more about Q.
I'm Diane Montgomery from Oklahoma State University, and I came to meet these other Oklahomans.
George McDuffie, Oklahoma State University. I want to learn more about Q, particularly its applications to HRDOD and occupational and adult education.
I'm Jim May from Oklahoma State University, and I'm just interested in learning more about Q.
Patricia Reed, I'm at Dartmouth College. I'm interested in the application of Q to faculty's emotional labor.
This is Juan Chang, director of the Stevenson Research Center. Any complaint or problem? All the conference comes to me. I'll be around to assist you if you need
I'm going to defer to Mike Strickland, who's in the back, and then get introduced.
I'm Mike Strickland from the University of Nebraska, and I'm here just like you to learn what I can from Steve Brown about Q.
James Harris from the Assemblies of God Theological Seminary, and I'm in Springfield, Missouri, and I'm interested in the application of Q method to family therapy.
And I'm Ulrike Wigger from the University of Illinois, and I'm interested also to learn about the method, but mostly how to teach it to others. I mean, how to make them understand what it's about and its advantages. So I want to learn that from you.
I'm Mark Galula from the University of Illinois at Chicago College of Medicine, and I'm particularly interested in looking at how we move from Varimax rotation into hand rotations this afternoon.
I'm Mick McKeown from Liverpool University, Department of Nursing, and I'm relatively new to Q, and I'm interested in how Q method can be incorporated into a social constructionist understanding of social relations. But also, when I did my Q study, Michael Stickland's computer program did all the business for me, and I'm interested in what goes on between putting your data in and interpreting it at this end. I'm interested in that middle.
I like that.
I'm Al Talbot from the University of Iowa. I'm a long time interested in this and I'm always willing to learn from a colleague.
I'm Richard Thompson from the University of Kansas, and I wanted to learn about Oklahomans without going to Oklahoma.
I'm Brian Midgley, also from the University of Kansas, and I just recently started looking into the Q methodology, and I discovered through some friends that this conference was going on at just the perfect time and not too far away, so I decided to make the trip.
I'm Debbie Fredericks from the University of Nevada, and I'm considering with some trepidation a Q dissertation. So not only here to learn about Q, but also to learn to teach it to my committee.
I'm Bob Mertek from the College of Medicine at the University of Illinois. Teaching Q methodology is indeed a challenge. I'm very much interested in that, and in particular in seeing how one bridges the gap between students-based knowledge on the quantitative paradigm, moving them ever so carefully into something that they are quite sure has no rational sense space to it at all. So that's a challenge, and I know Steve Brown has mastered that.
My name is Gene Paul Smith. I'm from Bethesda, Maryland. I'm here to learn about applications of Q methods, and especially strategies of forming a Q sample and a Phi sample to the policy field. My particular interest is drug abuse policy at the national level.
My name is Marcia Mertek. I'm an independent research consultant from Chicago, and I'm looking into more ways in which I can use Q methodology in research.
My name is Peter Schmoll from the German Army University in Munich. I'm here at the conference to learn about what other people make from Q methodology without necessitating me to read a lot of books. And regarding the workshop in particular, I hope with the help of the video I find something I can copy from my own classes. Thank you.
All right, very good. While I'm talking here, if you'll, each of you, I hope we have enough. I didn't think the audience would be quite this size. Take 20 of these, let's say. So if you could start passing these around and count out about 20, give or take. I had, and here also, I might take some, and there you are. I had anticipated at the outset, but then the introduction began more formally. That is, the meeting had a more formal beginning with Rob introducing things and taking care of some conference business first. But at the outset, I was anticipating just kind of engaging in small talk so that no one would know that, that there was any kind of, wouldn't be particularly aware that there was any kind of social interaction going on other than just natural chit-chat amongst people who were here together, and to let that go for about 10 minutes and then call your attention to the fact that you had been interviewed. And the reason for that is that one of the things that Stevenson found so appealing to Carl Rogers' client-centered therapy was that it was so unobtrusive. I mean, the client would say something to Carl Rogers, and he would just sort of quizzically look at them and say, or something like that, with minimal social reinforcers, and the person would just keep talking and eventually would work out his or her own difficulties. But the interview was not this kind of rat-a-tat-tat structured kind of thing that you get in surveys and polling. What do you think about such and such on a 10-point scale and so forth, that is very formal. But it was more an in-depth, freely structured, unstructured, focused. I mean, it was on a particular topic. And there's a certain skill to that, and it's well worth fostering and learning and so forth. Well, the purpose of that would be to show that, as I'm sure all of you are aware already, that subjectivity is a very natural kind of thing. We engage in it all the time. We don't go around spouting facts to one another. Facts may be interlaced in the, we may be talking about drug policy, or we may be talking about clients, or we may be talking about the upcoming presidential elections. There may be all kinds of things we're talking about. We may refer to facts as we're going along, but most of it is of an opinion kind. We're expressing some point of view that we have, which might be something like, why are you coming to the conference? And different people gave different kinds of ideas. Some of them, Gabe, for example, said something about he had some suspicions he'd like to either have confirmed or disconfirmed. Somebody else says that they're interested in knowing how you go about inputting the data and getting to the end, to the interpretation. Someone else says that he or she is interested in teaching and finding out how you go about teaching this material. Somebody else says, I'm interested in the relationship between Verimax rotation and judgmental or theoretical rotation of factors, so that there's all kinds of different reasons for being here. Most of the comments were of a general kind. I'm interested in learning more about Q methodology. And if you were involved in an interview, you might sort of raise your eyebrows, if you were the interviewer, and say, like what, or something like that, and encourage the person to talk more. And in the process of probing, the person would reveal more about the specific interests, and it might be something technical. I don't quite get how this force distribution, I've read a lot of literature about that, and it's not real clear in my mind. Or I'm interested in the history of Q and its connection to the Spearman School, or to factor analytic developments generally, or our friends from Kansas, that we understand there's some sort of connection between J.R. Cantor, who is someone that they're interested in, and Stevenson's ideas, but are not sure about the tie. So there'd be all kinds of specific things that we had interest in. And in the course of an interview, if we had time to go into it in more detail, that's what we would run into. Well, I would like very briefly, because we don't really have time to do a full scale study, but I would like to go through vaguely all the steps that are involved from the interviewing, and that portion is almost over already, into the collecting of statements, to making decisions about which statements to include into the Q sample, then going through a Q sorting. We'll all be doing Q sorts here shortly, into the data entry using the Q method program, which Peter Schmolk has very kindly converted into a PC program that's now available freeware, to the chagrin of Mike Strickland, I would think, in his PCQ program. And to go through all of those, including the judgmental rotation. The problem with all of this, of course, since we're in real time, is that all kinds of things could go wrong, and according to Murphy's Law, probably will. But an actual research project is that way also. It has rough edges. There are certain decisions that have to be made along the line when the data don't behave in the right way, so you may have to look at a Verimax solution and then try a judgmental solution. We may even have to go back and put it into SPSS to see what a principal component solution looks like, so that there may be all kinds of adjustments and starts and stops and backing up and so forth that are involved before we get finished. But I think you'll get a general feel. Then after we've gone through the technicalities, gotten the factor scores out, given brief interpretation to the factors and so forth, I hope that we can wrap all of that up by sometime around 4:30 so that the remaining couple of hours we can just talk generally about what specific kinds of things you may have interest in or need clarification about. So the first part will be somewhat more guided. I'd like to get started by generating the concourse. Now, we've already heard a bit of concourse in going around and responding to the question, why are you here? Again, because I'm here because I want to know about Stevenson, or I want to learn about judgmental rotation or something of that nature. Stevenson regarded concourse as the most important concept in Q methodology. Even without Q methodology, it's talk amongst individuals that solves problems. It solves problems between therapist and client. It solves problems amongst policymakers about whether to go to war in the Middle East. Someone says, I think, we ought to do this, we ought to do that. Somebody else says, oh, I'm not sure that we can pull that off. What would the Egyptians say, and so forth. And so there's all of this discussion about the ifs, ands, and buts associated with doing this or doing that. The same thing in physics. The importance of all these congresses that have gone on and the debates between Einstein and Bohr and all of that kind of thing in physics were largely talk. It was what Stevenson meant by concourse. And through the talking back and forth and generating these ideas, solutions get posed, experiments get suggested, possible outs to a difficult situation get suggested. And through this, knowledge grows, ways of dealing with problems become clearer, more understandable, and so forth. So concourse was the wellspring of civilization. It's what made one civilization great and another civilization not so great was the quality of the discussion that was going on amongst the individuals in that society or civilization. And so that, and Stevenson, along with Spearman, was interested in creativity, about the creative potential of the human mind. It wasn't just intelligence per se. Bert was more interested in intelligence testing and that kind of thing. Spearman wasn't. He was interested more in creativity and unlocking the secrets of the mind in the same way that physics was unlocking the secrets and the power of the atom. So it was a much higher level kind of concern and interest. And Stevenson had an interest in that as well. He was always interested in creativity, wrote about creativity, and I think that was one of the main ideas behind Q methodology and certainly of concourse theory, that's where the Marx said the same thing. I mean, if you're going to have a revolution and change society, it is in the talk and the thoughts and so on and so forth of people. He didn't quite know what to do with it, so he theorized prematurely about it, but nevertheless, concourse is present. The word itself, Stevenson traced back to Cicero in Greece or Rome, ancient times. And so it's a very old idea, but the idea of being able to deal with it in a formal way and in a scientific way, I'm sure he regarded as not being possible until there was Q methodology. Stevenson, I think, saw Q methodology as sort of the apex of Western evolution or evolution of humankind. He was not shy in making those kind of claims.